Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the last virtual lecture for traffic engineering. This lecture will be for my students in IUTT Civil Engineering Semester 6. I hope you got to watch the previous lecture, which was a case study regarding a traffic volume study. Today we're going to talk about something new, which is traffic management. So what is traffic management and why we need such a thing? So traffic management, when you have an infrastructure that includes highway, especially in urban areas, and this highways tends to be a little bit busy, and you need to improve the highway capacity and the level of service of the highway. So it's not always you need to expand the infrastructure or to widen the highway and to introduce new lanes. Sometimes you just study the streets and the highways as they are, and check how can you improve the traffic there. For example, sometimes if we have an intersection, it's not suitable to have a traffic signal, for example, or even a roundabout. So sometimes if you have light traffic, roundabout will be fine for that intersection. But when it comes to more traffic volume, so you need to put here a traffic signal instead of roundabout. And sometimes that traffic signal starts to not to perform in a good way. So you need actually to edit and to improve the situation here by introducing something regarding the traffic management. So we need to manage the traffic itself, while the fundamentals of the highway still the same. So this means traffic flow improvements and much less cost than changing the infrastructure. So this is really important, and basically we use that at the city centers. For example, all the city of Sana'a, Al-Tahrir, Jamal Street, and Al-Qasr Street. So we use a lot of things. That most important thing is something we call route circulation, which means for those small and tight streets, we actually provide only one way on them, just like Shara Jamal. And the other, we need to plan and replan all of the area so we can provide another tight street to provide this movement. This we call it route circulation. So to talk about that in much details, This is the traffic management, and the fundamental aim of that is to maximize the use of the existing street system. So, no much changing for the fundamentals of the street or highways, except for the traffic signs. We need to provide some of them, and the street marking is really important for such plans, and also the how to provide the drivers and also the pedestrian about these new plans. So it needs a little bit of advertisement, and to bring those drivers and pedestrian the knowledge of the things that we need to apply to the streets. So without impairing environmental quality. So this is really important for such city centers. When you can't, and environmentally it's not possible to add just more tunnels or more bridges because of the environmental impact or even the social impact. So this traffic management is very useful and helpful. So the fundamental approach is to retain as much as possible of existing pattern of streets, but alter pattern of traffic movement to achieve the aim. So most appropriately apply to short-term and low capital cost. If you need to apply a short-term plan to improve the traffic as a result of closing streets for infrastructure improvement or any security issue. So this for short-term plans, traffic management is very, very important when you have an intersection and you need to install and establish a level separated intersection. In that case, you need to provide traffic management plans, so those drivers and vehicles will not pass this intersection while still in construction. So it's very important to apply new routes. So if we have this intersection, so it means those can come from here and provide them with U-turn and keep going to the desired direction they want. And also it's most appropriately applied to capital cost low. Usually those plans and those approach we apply to streets, they don't take much cost comparing to building new infrastructures. So what are the management measures? So signal traffic category, example pedestrian, lorries, which is like heavy trucks, or mixed traffic, close operational control of feeder roads to urban motorways. Those main measures we can check them to see how our traffic management how they're performing, are they working in a good way or not when we make our assessment after we install or establish our traffic management approach. So what type of alternations are involved in the traffic management scheme? So it's new scheme. So we need actually to check the road layout, which is the map of the streets and the neighborhood. Provision of additional guidance and control devices, such as we need to provide signs, sometimes signals, pedestrian guardrails to protect the pedestrian, or pedestrian crossing and lightings. Lightings for what? For pedestrian. And also the standing vehicle, this may require construction of ancillary pavement areas, for example, for bus bays, which means those bays or lanes exclusively reserved for buses. And also in commercial areas, we need actually to provide loading and unloading bays for commercial vehicles. This CV means commercial vehicles. And also the moving traffic to coordinate traffic signal, adjust controllers, and reduce conflicts by one-way street, as we talked before, and limit the selected turn-in movements. If we have an intersection and it's a very busy intersection, signalized intersection, sometimes we cancel this left turning movement in the American system, or we can call it right turning movement on the British one. And reversible flow lanes for roads with directional flow peaks. We talked that before. Sometimes if we have a two-way highway, sometimes if we have two-way, sometimes here we have tidal flow. And instead of providing more lanes for both, if 3 lanes are enough, and all I have here are, for example, 4 lanes or 5, this 3 lanes only enough for 30%. So I can just make shift between the more lane. So when the peak in the morning from here 65, so I give here 4 lanes and here just only 2. And when it comes to the tidal, and here it comes 65% and here 35%, I change that again. So here will be just only 2 lanes and here will be 4. This we call it reservable flow lanes. Some common techniques that we can actually apply as traffic management: one-way streets, restrict on turning movement, as we talked about the intersections, tidal or reserve flow, as we talked that if I have only 4 lanes and 2 by 2, and 2 it's not enough at the peak, and here it's only few cars coming at the morning, and so I can provide the third one here to be 4, and again when it's at the end of the day, if the peak from here, I provide here 4 lanes and here only 2, instead of 3 by 3 and having traffic jam in the morning and traffic jam in the evening. So this we call it tidal or reserve flow. Closing side streets. Sometimes if I have a highway, sometimes those side streets actually gives me an interruption here for those vehicles coming from this lane. So sometimes we can just close them and use this street for parking. And we still have also the exclusive bus lanes or bus priority. Sometimes when we want, especially in the middle of the cities, if we need to enforce and encourage people to use public transportation, we need to give buses more priority, just like London City. Using bus most of the time gives you much quicker time to achieve your destination. So starting with the one-way streets, it means that all of this highway will be just one way, which means there is no traffic will come through this, which means this intersection will actually perform much better because there is no interruptions from this side, only either right turning movement or actually going through to this street. So if you apply a traffic signal here, it will be much quicker than having two-way from here, and which means cars will be coming from here, and also I still have cars coming from here, and this lanes will be divided between two-way, and this lanes will be divided by two-way. But for that, you actually most immediate and least expensive method. This is the most immediate. You could just apply it all of a sudden just by providing signs and bring the knowledge and alter the people about the new changes to the streets, and it gives you great improvements when it in combination with other methods, just like band turning movement signalization, restrict unloading and loading areas in some areas. What are the signing we need? The traffic signs we need. If I have two-way here, two-way highway, and I bring it just for one-way, which means at any intersection I need to provide a sign here that say no entry because it's one way. You need just to go from here. And when this method just ended up at the end of your layout and it becomes again two-way, you need to provide sign of two-way again. Sometimes as we said here, no left turning, and from these streets there will be no right turning, and from here no left turns, and from here no right turns at some junctions, especially small ones. So what are the advantages of this method of traffic management, which is one-way streets? Actually, it reduces the conflict points. As we talked before, there is no much interruption at intersection or in the middle of the highway. It gives you schemes that reduce points of conflicts by less delay, which means less congestion, and it improves safety. This about reducing conflicts. So when you talk about the advantages of one-way street method, it actually reduces the conflict points by those, and increased capacity. Before, when I have, for example, two lane here and two-way, so it means here I have only one lane and here I have one lane. But when they become two lanes in one way, it means I increase the capacity of this particular highway, because the opposing traffic removed, conflict points reduced at intersections, and utilize odd width for traffic lane. And one more advantage here would actually increase the speed. Why we can increase the speed? Because the opposing المرور المعاكس is eliminated. You're only going on your way, so it provides you more safety, which means you can speed more quickly than you do usually before applying this method. Facilitated by more efficient traffic signal operation, so it reduced delay, and which means the journey time in general will be reduced. Number 4, facilitate operation or progressive signal system, because the design is just easy. With a pair of one-way street, we got smoother flow. More advantage here, it's to improve the parking facilities. If I have 2 lane here, and here I have a parking, and here I have parking, now I can improve the street by having 2 lanes here, and I can park at either side or eliminate that and provide one more lane to also to increase the capacity of the highway. So 2-way street with permitted parking on both sides consumes an amount of street width, because I have here parking, and also here I have parking for those coming from here. But now I will eliminate that, and parking will be only at the slowest lane beside the slowest lane. So this I have an extra lane here. So a practical proposal, how can we propose that in a practical way? To eliminate parking altogether and allocate somewhere, or if you're thinking about why we can't park at this lane, because it's beside the fast lane, and this cannot be applied here. It will be very, very dangerous, and it will reduce the capacity, and it will give you more congestion here. So you just allocate that somewhere else, or convert to one way with one side parking, as we talked before. It's less dangerous here, and this will be just an extra lane. So one more advantage here, it eliminates the glare coming from the opposing traffic. ما حد بيجي من الخط الثاني, which means there is no glare, which means it provides you more comfort and safety, especially when driving at night. And also there will not be a head-on collision, because there is no opposing traffic. So there is no head-on collision, because those vehicles are eliminated. And also small overlap crashes, they won't be seen in this kind of scheme. And also the medium overlap, because there is no opposing traffic at all. But we still have disadvantages for this method, such as important drawback. Sometimes the scheme of the area doesn't provide you another street to make a drawback. Sorry, this drawback, sometimes if you for emergency cases, or if you want just to go back with U-turn, it's not available here. So you need just to end up the street and look for the one-way street that brings you back where you want to go. So it's not that easy comparing to U-turns. And sometimes the scheme itself of the area doesn't provide you another option to bring the one-way again. So we can tell that شارع جمال, yeah, there I can use شارع القصر as one way to go to somewhere like القاع. And from Al-Ga'a to Tahrir, I can use Shara Jamal. So this scheme is very simple. But what if I don't have Al-Qasr? In that case, it will be very difficult to apply this method. Uh, the most dangerous disadvantage here is the initial state. When you start this method, a lot of people will be confused, especially the drivers and also the pedestrian when they cross the street. It's sometimes, if you're not applying that in a good way, it will be very dangerous at the initial stage, maybe for two weeks up to 4 weeks. At ends of one-way streets, when you end up with that particular highway and it's one way, somewhere it's gonna be like two-way, and it means those traffic will be merged with only one way here, and you still have here the two-way. Here you're gonna say no entry from here, so those can use the right turn to move. But for those, you will observe, and you will find a little bit of traffic jam if you're not introducing that with a good traffic signs and lane markings. Ideal situation: two roads converge to Y junction, which is rare. Most often, two roads end up in cross streets. Needs to handle the great amount of traffic, as we said before, and junction design problems due to heavy left turning and right turning. So if I have a one-way street and I have a rescue vehicle, just like ambulance or a police officer needs to go here for security operation or emergency operation for an ambulance, that will be very, very difficult because all of the traffic will be opposing, and it's very dangerous. Those need just to find where is the route that they can just use it for that way. So this is one more disadvantage. So one more thing, that the actual distance traveled, the journey time and the delay reduced, but the total distance traveled sometimes, and in many cases they will be in total just more, and they increase, which is the total distance traveled, while the journey times and the delays is actually less. One more disadvantage about that is the bus stop location. For example, if I bring this street just one way, those people who used to use buses from that way, they will shift to another highway that we use it on our scheme to bring people back to that area. So which means those people used to actually ride buses from here, they will change their destination and check another highway that includes the addition for the public transportation. So bus stop may have to be relocated, passengers may have to walk extra distance, may be away from important bus traffic generators. مثلا بعيد من الفرزة، كانت الفرزة هنا بتخدم لي رايح جاي. Now I need to provide another bus station, which is sometimes difficult. The resulting speed. Higher speed sometimes gives you a hazard to residential areas. It's gonna be noisy, and when you increase the speed because you improve the capacity of the highway, so it means the speed will be increased. If I have a residential area, it means it's very dangerous for those people there, especially if I have kids. And also, yeah, I know that the number of accidents may be reduced because I don't have opposing traffic, but More speed means those accidents, even though I don't have opposing vehicles, the accidents between vehicles at the same direction, or even with emergent traffic at the same direction, they will be more severe. So the severity of the accidents, الخطورة, will be increased. The residential amenity. Often one-way street scheme will have to use existing residential streets. Sometimes if I want to apply that, so I know now I have one-way street. Now I need to provide one-way again. Sometimes I use a new highway. Sometimes it was a very quiet هادئ, and now I'm gonna use it to be a primary highway. Sometimes this affects the neighborhood. Business areas, they got affected. مثل شارع هايل. Now it's one way. At the beginning, a lot of commercial shops, they got affected by the fact that there is no other traffic that can provide people from coming. And we can tell that شارع 16, since you provide the drawback of the traffic from شارع 16, it was a very quiet street, and now it has a lot of shops there and commercial buildings there. So for now, I guess it's enough for you, due to the situation that we've been through, and you can just continue that for your knowledge. And please put any question on the discussion related to this lecture using your Google Classrooms. I wish you all the best for your final exams, and see you next semester, inshallah.